Now, blue has a chance to do something very special here at 2024-2025 Dragon Ball Masters Nationals. We saw blue win, what, two nationals ago now? And blue took second place last year with a blue-green Android 21 build. So blue has always seemed to be on top of the nationals format rather than the rest of the year for some reason. Typically, it seems to align that Bandai seems to release really strong red decks before nationals. At least the past few years, that's how it's been. Or a yellow deck, and then blue seems to kind of march its way into being relevant by being some sort of counter or having the best answer to the decks that are considered top tier. In today's video, we're going to go over the blue deck that I feel like has a very good chance to make some noise. Very generic blue deck. So it's not something that's incredibly crazy and like special spicy, but I do think the deck has a lot of potential. Unfortunately, because this is a deck that I have talked a lot of shit about on this channel, but there's no denying what the deck kind of is. So before we go into that deck, we'll kind of talk about the other state of blue, which is sort of it's very random where we have blue decks currently. There is no real data for blue decks that have actually done really well. You've had some really kind of weird one-offs with things like Kaba, which I wouldn't recommend people to play. You have things like Super Saiyan 3 Goku that just won an event, which put an asterisk on it. I don't think that deck's also what people should be playing at Nationals. I think that deck is incredibly slow. And essentially, if you go into the wrong matchup, you just die really quickly. You just don't get a chance to actually turn on all of your negates. And I think people are going to be a little more ready for blue, or at least they should be going in the Nationals, just because blue seems to always be sort of like that dark horse color for the majority of the time. We're going to go over today Soul Striker, which is a deck that I have talked a lot of negativity on. But again, this deck is very good, and I think this might be a format where we might see Soul Striker come back in some sort of way. Now, obviously, you have other blue decks like Gamma, which people are going to play. You have just the other random blue stuff that people might play, like Blue Boo, which is, I think, is a very good deck, or Blue Gogeta, or the Aegis Gogeta. So you're going to have a lot of different variations of blue, but I think this deck does a good job of kind of culminating all of the good blue cards that we've seen in these last like 2 sets into one particular leader. So as always, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you guys do enjoy the content, as well as the mixture of Marvel Rivals content that we're going to start, that we've been kind of throwing in there a little bit, helping people prep for Nationals. So I had a little bit less time to record, and then we've just been spending so much time talking about Masters, I figured I'd just pop out some more Masters content while we're doing it. So now we'll get into the deck and just kind of go over what I came up with. So again, I preface this by saying you'll probably see all these cards and go, wow, yeah, that makes sense, right? I don't think this deck does anything specially like broken. I don't think it's like incredibly spicy tech of what this deck does. Old reliable Soul Striker just seems to sort of find its way back into the meta in different variations, right? 2 particular things that this leader does is you are able to restand energy when you attack, and you can restand a blue unison. And I find this combination now with the power that we have in the Z unison slot, especially with blue having some of the best Z unisons, not including Jiren, because I think Jiren has the best lineup of Z unisons. I mean, the deck has 4, but blue has some of the best Z unisons we have in the game, outside of comparing it to red. And this could do very, very well. Now, one big thing I think with Soul Striker that it makes this deck noticeable is the amount of red that we have. Generally, when we have dominant red formats, blue tends to do very well. So if you go back again to the SS4 and Red Sin, we had a Crimson deck, Crimson Goku, that popped up that ended up doing incredibly well, ended up winning that Nationals in North America, ended up winning the Oceanus one, the Oceania one with the week after, and it did have a pretty decent run at Nationals, where I think the highest placing was like 3rd or 4th. With that leader gone, blue has sort of fallen out as sort of the generic color, and we had like Android 21, which seemed to have did well last year, obviously. Android 21 ended up winning Nationals. And ended up winning Worlds. It got 2nd at our Nationals when the rest of the world said that Android 21 was a bad deck. I probably said it was bad at some points as well, because it did have spots where it wasn't great. but the ability of being able to stall out your opponent until you get to late game where you're able to play all these really big cards is definitely somewhat of a play style. Maybe not a play style that I would technically do, but it's definitely something that you can end up doing. So this is a 50, I think it's a 56 card list. So we'll go here through the cards. We have our 1-drops. We have Defending Friends, Peel Off, Shu, and Mai. These are your early game negates and just late game just value. Peel Off, being able to stop your opponent from being able to Z-charge, is really, really important. So this is a draw 1, and you can bottom deck a card in their combo area, which really strong. I think this card, especially if you go first to just charge pass, and your opponent has to have a Z energy in order to awaken, you just play this, and now they can't, and that hurts a lot. You pair that with Defending Friends, which once you start getting Z energy, you can force your opponent to bottom deck a card from their hand each time. This card's not incredibly broken anymore. It used to be really good. Now it's just kind of meh. It's kind of at that level where Mecha Frieza Robotic Repose was sort of losing value. It's kind of in that same sort of ballpark now, where it's still a very good card. It's just not as good. We have 4 Preparing for a Final Battle. This is one of your Self-Awakeners and probably your primary turn 2 play. You have 2 more energy. You add a card of your life to your hand. You can then add this to the Z energy to draw a card and discard a card. So you get to see a new card, and you get to add a card from your life to your hand. Because you need to get to 4 life so you can awaken, because you don't have an early awaken condition now. We have 3 Raditz negates. So this is a really fun card. It costs 2 if you have a Z extra in play. It's a negate that is deflect, dual attack, blocker, meaning it can't be counterplayed. And when it hits the board, if you have 3 or more energy, you declare 1 number. When this card is played until the end of your opponent's next turn, or until the end of your opponent's turn, your opponent can't play a battle card with an original power the same as the declared numbered unless they place 1 card from their hand at the bottom of their deck. So you choose, so this is original power. So if you choose 20,000, right? Any card played that is 20,000, your opponent has to bottom deck a card. If you say 30,000, same thing, right? Why this is so good is that there's certain decks like Vegeta, Pan, Kid Q, they generally are playing either 30s or 20Ks. Not necessarily a lot of 25Ks. And this says original power. So this means Pan's cards, before they gain the 5K buff, most of them are going to be 20Ks, right? So a lot of the time you can play this card into the red matchup and basically stop their turn, because now they're going to have to bottom deck cards from hand. Yes, this does leave you open to things like, Broly Crown, but you have different answers for that as well in your side deck. Against yellow, against black, calling 30K, calling 20K, these are going to really put you in a good position, just as a really strong negate, and it's something that you can activate multiple times in a turn. You also, this card is a dual attack blocker, meaning it can block, so it's going to stop an attack, it's going to block another attack if it doesn't die, and then also you can swing at it twice, or swing at it and then turn it back into a blocker. So this card's really good. It's a Saiyan, so if you play the searchable Saiyan cards, or the 1-drop Vegeta that searches out Saiyans, this card would do really well. We have 3 Ultimate Battle Super Saiyan Vegito. Bounces any card, and then you add a card from your energy to your hand, and then vice versa. So you basically get an energy back by adding a card from your energy to your hand. And this card also draws a card, so it's going to cycle a card. It's going to get rid of something on the board, and then it's also going to swap a card out in your energy, and that card will come in an active mode if it is a mono blue card, or just a mono color card in general. We have 4 Heroic Prospect as our other hard negate. That's going to stop your opponent from being able to attack unless they bottom deck 2 cards from their hand each time. 3 Rose Goku Blacks. This is our in combat trick, which allows us to bottom deck 4 costs. This is again another card for red. A lot of red cards either don't have barrier and they're 4-drops, so this card kind of eats on those decks. We have 3 Emotional Blows. This is really good to deal with the barrier cards, but also indestructible cards, so something like Zamasu. Now this card does need a 30K body in play or an 8-drop card in play to be able to play it for 1. But when you play it, you get to choose a card ignoring barrier and negate its indestructible skills and then bottom deck it. So it doesn't actually need indestructible, of course, so you can just hit barrier cards. But being able to hit the Zamasu cards essentially gives you sort of an out to the Zamasu deck if you end up playing against it. Now, something into the Zamasu deck that a lot of other decks can kind of do the same thing. You can do a lot of this to the same you can do the same thing to a lot of those other decks. Is you just play Peel Off. So Peel Off is like your best turn 1 play. If they're not playing the out to Peel Off, you essentially can stop your opponent from being able to get to the combo step. And then then you can kind of push the game to go a little bit farther. At that point, you're, hopefully ahead. That match is probably a little bit more difficult for you anyways, but the Emotional Blow card will definitely help. We have 1 Golden Ape, so we can use it as a counter. And then it's a 30k triple stacker that also bottom decks the card Ignoring Barrier. You also could use it to, I think it counterplays a 7 cost, where you can bounce it back, and then when it's played, you bottom deck any card Ignoring Barrier. 1 Power Reclaimed, more just removal. 3 Oob, which is probably one of the best cards. This and the next card we're going to go over are probably 2 of the best cards to play into the Vegeta matchup, which is a deck that you're going to probably play a lot in Top Cut, and you're going to be playing against it a lot just in general, I feel like. So these 2 cards here kind of allow you to win those matchups. All right, so Oob, if your opponent has 2, for every card your opponent has in their Z energy, this card costs 3 less. So if they have 2 cards in there, you can play this for 2. If the opponent has 3 more energy, when this card's played, you draw a card. Then you choose up to 3 total battle cards from their battle area and their drop, and you add them to their Z energy. So this is really good for you being able to just add any card from their board. You can remove 3 cards on board for 2 energy. That's really, really solid. You're also drawing a card, playing a 30k Double Striker body. That also, if you and your opponent have more than 7 energy, Z energy total between the 2 of you, if they activate a counter, they have to add a card from their hand to their Z energy. So even just a little bit of hand destruction in there. This card is really, really good into that matchup and just red in general. Like imagine like you're on turn 3, you're awoken, you play Oob, you bounce 3 cards, you swing with your leader, you restand 2 energy, now you have 3 energy back up. That's really crazy, right? So this card gives you a lot of versatility in that matchup, just allowing you to clear wide boards for not a lot of energy. And then also you have Broly, where it costs 2, so you just need 2 energy, which is nice. Then activate main, you bottom deck one of your opponent's cards. That's all you need to know, right? And then additionally, if your opponent has 3 or more energy, you can restand this card and give it double strike. You don't even have to do the bottom effect, right? Like on turn 2, you can swing out a card and then you can just bottom deck the other card. So like you can just get rid of something for free. 35k on turn 2, very difficult to remove. If you go first and you play this, your opponent's not going to have anything to remove it. They can you can't even play, you would have to play, you would have to play like the dual attacker and then something else, because this is a 35k, so even like swing with the dual attacker twice doesn't kill this. You'd have to build enough Z energy so you can defeat the demon and stuff. There's some wild play lines you have to do to get rid of this card. We have 2 Power of Conviction Vegeta. Cost 2 dual attacker. If this card's attack would be negated by one of your opponent's skills, you may choose 1 Z card in your battle area or unison area and remove it from the game instead. So this allows you to essentially not need a counter in some cases. If your opponent is at 2 life, you essentially can kill anybody with this card and then this card here, which is being Beast Gohan, being your secret rare. So essentially you take them to 2, you swing, if you swing with this card, they can't negate, and then you just hand dump, you just dump everything from your hand except for 3 cards, and then you keep the 2 cards in your hand for Beast Gohan, play Beast Gohan, and you just burn them for 1, right? That's a very very cheeky way of being able to win games. But this card just being a dual attacker that can also stop your opponent from activating a negate is crazy. Now, the one thing about this card, it says an effect that would negate this card's skill, or this card's attack. So things like Dormant, After Image, Bardock, these type of cards, this actually doesn't do anything for. So the card in the middle here is your Majin Buu Unison, which I'm not going to spend too much time talking about because cards have been around forever. So you still play the one of. We have 4 Vegeta super combos. You also can play Zeno if you feel like the Zeno gives you more value, but I don't really think we need it. We're not really ramping at all, and we have this to get certain cards back. Beerus Destroys. All right, so Anui Goku, UI Goku is a 15k defensive card. That's free, essentially, as long as you have an energy standing. Also, on offense, we can use it as a 15k draw one. So, that's pretty cool. Beerus, however, on offense, you can bottom deck a card greater than your opponent's energy. On defense, it's a 10k, draws you a card, bottom deck's a 2 cost. Now, why does the 2 cost matter? Well, there are some decks, aggro decks, Goku Xeno in particular, right, has the ability of essentially just like destroying you on turn 1, right? Like they play a Vegeta, they play a Goku True Fighting Spirit, they're going to swing with it, do all this stuff, right? If you can't remove that card, they're going to get so much value off of those little pesky 1-drops. This allows you to not have to worry about the negate factor, and you can just bottom deck the card, right? Other decks that play 1-drops and 2-drops, it's it's okay. You have decks that play like Broly Tyrant, which is a Z battle card. They might play the Vegeta Z battle card. There's a lot of like even Z cards that are like 2 cost or less that have pretty good power, like Oolong. So this is just a good way of just being able to get to out any of those cards, but also defensively, like you're not really doing a lot, right? Like turn 1, you either play Shu or you use this, right? Turn 2, you either go into the card we're gonna show in the Z in the Z deck, or you play this, and then you keep 1 energy up. So like you really like your early turns are kind of meh. So you sometimes you just need cards that you just have access to just to continue to draw cards and keep your life up, or just to block certain damage you don't want to take. Last 2 cards, D Magic, Sense of Being. We're not going to spend any time talking about those. So for the Z deck, we have 2 Black Kamehameha, 1 Android 18 Unknown Threat. This is like a weird pseudo Majin Buu unison type card. So it's a 3 energy double striker blocker. Top effect doesn't matter because our leader's on Android. +1, we bottom deck one of our opponent's cards and switch this card to active mode. Bottom effect, -0, your opponent places 1 card from their hand at the bottom of their deck, and then you switch it to one of your blue energy to active mode. So this card in itself allows you to do a lot of different things, right? You can use this as a 20k double striker dual attacker, right? Not really dual attacker, but like you can switch it to active mode at the end of the turn. This card will swing. You can then bottom deck a card, restand it at the end of the turn. So now you have a blocker on board. Or you can just swing with it and then do the minus effect, which will then bottom deck a card from their hand. You'll restand an energy, and then your leader will restand this card. Now, granted, you probably want this card to get some extra markers on it so it doesn't just die, but that's really, really good. And that's the same thing for Majin Buu. I know Majin Buu restands itself anyways. But then you have cards like this, which is obviously can't attack, right? Goku Frieza, probably your best turn 2 play. +1, you restand an energy, and now you have access to Hero Prospect on turn 2. It's pretty good. We have Deborah, 4-drop dual attack blocker. -1, when your opponent attacks with a card, choose one of your opponent's battle cards, negate its skills, and it can't attack for the turn. And then -1, choose one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, place at the bottom of the deck, then switch up to one of your blue energy to active mode. This card then can also be restood by your leader. So you can swing twice at this, bottom deck something, and then restand an energy and restand this for the blocker. 1 Cell for more board wiping potential for decks that play bodies that are 5 or less. 1 Goku for the decks that are playing a lot of hand draw, so things like U7, things like Jiren draw is a pretty big hand, but things like U7, like Vegeta, Android 21, these type of decks, they're just going to draw a lot. The green decks, right? This is a really good counter to those. 1 Baby Parasitic Premonition, which allows you to turn on your Android negate a little bit faster. And then 1 Mai, which I find to be really funny. So the top effect just kind of bland, it just gets 10k power, but the bottom effect here, if you have one or more Trunks future cards in your Z energy, during your opponent's next turn, the first attack with the battle cards that energy costs 5 or more, negate the attack at the start of the battle's offensive step. So it's basically just a hard negate for the first thing and that they play, and as long as this card lives, which it very, very rarely will, but you play this for 1, and then it just says, hey, the first battle card you attack with that's 5 or more, it just automatically negates. Pretty cool. Last card, the UI Z leader turns ourself into a double striker crit, depending on how late the game goes. Also can drop as the energy to negate a battle card attack. That's once per turn. Then we go to the Z deck, or the side deck. We have Raditz, 2 Koitsukai for basically everything but green, 2 Deborah, 4 green, 1 Mechigabora, the Broken Seal. This is going to be for a lot of decks that play like Gogeta Secret Rare, maybe a deck that's playing Beast Gohan that you know of, or Evil Saiyan. Just think you can kind of just stop them from playing on a certain turn. 2 Black Smoke, Unison, Hate, essentially being able to just remove Unisons. 2 Babies, kind of the same thing. This one you have to bottom deck a card on either board and then place a card in your hand on the drop. So you have a little more extra things you got to do for it, but it is also a Saiyan. So if you play the searching Vegeta card that searches out Saiyans, you can use that. 2 Guasu for anti-hand control, and then 3 God Slicing Kamehameha for mainly for Broly Crown, but it hits a various of different cards in the meta as well. This hits 4 cost or less, which can hit the UI Goku as well in red. And then if you play it for free, you discard 2 cards, but this card does draw the card, so you're just going to go -2 from hand instead of -3. So that is the deck. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you guys did, like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of the list. If you guys think you guys are going to be playing blue. If this is a good blue deck you think, if you think there's a better blue deck that people are going to be playing, let me know down in the comments. I'm interested. We got about a week or so left until Nationals, so we're getting close to that time. So it's going to be interesting to see what we have that's going to be in Top Cut. So thank you guys for watching as always. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.